Alright everybody, let's go ahead and look at our second strategy passage here for our GChem. Now we've been discussing, as we were in the first passage, how to handle text-heavy passages. Alright, so look at another example of this. Strategy passage 2, we see we've got 3 paragraphs, only 1 equation, and 1 small table. So again, we're going to be dealing with a lot of text. So as we were discussing previously, that's why we need to be very good and a lot of practice with our highlighting versus our scratch paper to do this quickly and efficiently. Okay, because that's the whole goal. We're all about speed and going quickly and smoothly on the MCAT. So, this passage right here, is this a good representation of something you might see? I would say absolutely. Alright, they're giving you a little bit of things that you've heard before and a lot of also some new stuff to deal with, right? I mean, there's no reason you would ever need to walk in knowing that Pauling equation there, equation 1, or what's going on with equation 2 in that table down there. Alright, so there's new information here, but also count a couch and stuff that we've discussed before. So remember, one thing you want to get good at is how to describe this as a now or later passage, because no passage is worth more than any other passage, so there's no reason for us to be spending a lot of time on one passage that's hard versus trying to move on and getting a passage that's easier to do. So let's go ahead and dive into this passage, number 2 here, on our page 71 in our strategy manual. Now, passage number 2, we see right in the beginning, of course, you want us to decide if it's going to be an hour later. You want to kind of get into that first paragraph a little bit, first few lines there. And we see in the first few lines it talks about Linus Pauling, founder of electronegativity, the most commonly used scale for electronegativity. So I would definitely highlight electronegativity there in paragraph 1, electronegativity. And we go on or scan through a little bit. Now you make your decision. If I feel good electronegativity, does this equation looks kind of crazy, but the rest of the reading doesn't look too bad. Table looks kind of straightforward. Maybe I'd go ahead and try to do it now. Again, that's going to be kind of a start as you work through and do your practice on your own, kind of getting through some of the things that are going to be your clues as to is this a now or later passage for me. All right. So electronegativity, keep on reading, and we see that they talk about applying that to the concept of electronegativity and bond strength. Big buzzword there, bond strength. So bond strength. All right, electronegativity. And then they go on to talk about, we see also heteroatomic and homoatomic. So those are 2 words I also highlighted, as they usually like to compare, contrast things. So heteroatomic versus homoatomic. And of course, apply your little Latin, and you'll know, of course, that this will be between 2 different atoms and a bond between the same atom, hetero versus homoatomic. And then, of course, we see that we've got equation 1 there. So let's go ahead and kind of like what we kind of note on our scratch paper about this. Good idea on your scratch paper is kind of get an idea of what's the big picture here. So this would be our electronegativity, electronegativity on bond strength, right? That's what I kind of jot down, just kind of give me a quick little summary. What was that paragraph about? Then we see equation 1, and now a good rule of thumb is that they'll usually explain the equation in the paragraph that follows, sometimes in the paragraph right above. So we see they're going to go ahead and go to the explanation. So we have equation 1, and then paragraph 2. Remember, you can't highlight equations or within equations. You just can't do that highlighting. But paragraph 2, of course, is, as you can see, a description of it. It right there tells you, and I highlighted the D, of course, is going to be that subscript A minus B, and then it's going to be the variables. But all I highlighted was just simply that. This is where D of A minus B is being described. And again, don't try to get caught up in trying to understand every single variable. You want to keep on moving. But however, another thing I would have highlighted is a little bit later on, the but, okay? It's a transition. Always watch out for your transition words. So there's a but here, and we see that, of course, they go on to say that very large diffuse bonding orbitals result in very weak homoatomic bonds. So I went ahead and highlighted that. Very large diffuse, ... all the way till I got to the weak homoatomic. Weak homoatomic. Alright? And of course, quickly jot down on my scratch paper here that what we have is basically the equation 1 description and also note large diffuse. Okay, large diffuse exception. Because always time, you only do that, something if I might come back to. Large diffuse exception. Okay? Then we get into our paragraph 3 here. And we see that it then goes on to say that the experiment determined strengths of bonds of main group atoms to hydrogen and carbon have been shown largely to agree. So, carbon and hydrogen agree. I would have highlighted that because you want to know that that's when it's going to be applying to this rule. And then they go on to talk about equation 2 and table 1. All right, so a quick description on here. We're going to be talking about that agree with values in equation 2 and table 1. So those values are good values to use if we have to do some experiments. All right? Now, as far as the highlighting here, okay, we're trying to keep our highlighting very minimal. All right, it's a good idea to try to highlight every single thing that's in there. Like, for example, in paragraph 2, we went ahead and skipped some of the actual hardcore descriptions of the equation. Don't do those until you need to come back and actually do calculations, perhaps. So just, okay, there's a description. If I need it, I'll come back to it. Okay? And if you consider kind of the equation and then also what's going down there in the table, that may be something that's going to be a little bit harder to work with. So that may be something you want to hold off until last. Because remember, with math on the MCAT, and we'll get into this more later on, you want to go ahead and try to be careful in terms of how much math you want to do. Math being done under pressure can be confusing and you can make a lot of more errors. So, any questions here on kind of our basic techniques for highlighting versus our scratch paper here? Of course, sorry, that would have actually been done, in a purple color because you only get one color pencil when you're on the MCAT, right? So, carbon, hydrogen, agree, as I was saying. All right, any questions, anybody? All right.